Video is about setting up the mast. This is a check sheet that I keep down below on the chart table in the galley, and it just helps you go in order and make sure that you don't miss any steps. You'll notice that the mast is all tied down. When you get to the location where you're going to stand the mast and put the boat in the water, untie all these lines here and free up the mast. Then come to the stern, and this post that I referenced in another video, you want to hold the mast up with your hand. I usually use my shoulder. Then you pull this bolt out, and this actually slides up about another 3 feet, and then you put that bolt back in, and then you lift the mast and you put it back on this roller. This is the roller that the mast slides back on. There's the bottom view of that stern roller, and you notice I actually have a couple lines here, and I just run them across and tie them off. That keeps that roller perpendicular to the mast, so it doesn't twist and bind the mast as you're pushing the mast backwards. At the bow now, you'll see where the foot of the mast is, and this hole, that is a hole that the pin holds it in the cradle. The mast cradle is right here, and you undo this wing nut, pull out this bolt, and then slide the mast back until the foot of the mast is right here, and then you put this pin back in, put the wing nut back on, and that secures the base and allows the mast to pivot around this pin. These are safety straps that I keep down below or in the lazarette, and they're only used when you're raising the mast. This is a T-fitting, and that actually goes in the mast here. It's about 8 feet above the foot, and it slides in and then turns, and that holds it in the mast. The other end of that, you can see these clips, and they actually slide in here, and you pull it up, and that locks it there. So you have one on each side, and they hold the mast in position as it's being raised so it doesn't flop side to side. All the stays, they juncture into T-fittings, and I usually use electrical tape just to make sure that they don't pop out as you're raising the mast. Once the mast is up, there's no issue, but sometimes when these are loose and you're raising them, it may have a tendency to turn and pop out of place, and then you have to lower the mast and put them back in. So a little bit of electrical tape just keeps them in place while you're raising it. Part of this line here that you see that I'm tying the mast and the jib together for travel, that actually stays here, and here it is right below here. I use the mainsail halyard to raise this into place. You want it right here, right underneath these stays, port and starboard stays, and then that will extend forward, and this loop here actually is what you catch the webbing that I talked about in the previous video. You raise that black mast up, and it goes up about another 4 or 5 feet. Put the pin back in, and the webbing with the boat hook on the front comes off the boat. It goes up through those 2 rollers and then connects to here, and then you begin to crank on the winch. There's a better view of the winch and one of the rollers. There's another roller there, and as you crank the winch with that webbing and that line I just talked about, it begins to raise the mast. Here's the connection for one of the side stays. This is the port side. As you're raising the mast, I usually go up about 12 or 14 clicks, and then I walk around and make sure that my stays on the port and the starboard and also in the stern, that they're not tangling around anything. Flopping wires have a tendency on a boat to catch just about anything. So if you raise it 12, 14 turns on the winch, and then check your stays, make sure that they're all going where they need to go and they're not twisted or caught on anything. That's really a benefit.